Today we are going to be talking about the history of D-Day. During World War II, the Battle of Normandy, which lasted from June 1944 to August 1944, which liberated Western Europe from Nazi control. Condemned Operation Overlord, the battle began on June 6, 1944, also known as D-Day, when 156,000 Allied forces troops invaded the shoreline. The invasion was one of the largest attacks by water ever recorded into history books. Prior to D-Day, the Allies conducted a large-scale deception campaign designed to mislead the Germans about the intended invasion target. By late August 1944, all of northern France had been freed by Nazi control, and by the following spring, the Allies had defeated the Germans. The Normandy landings have been called the beginning of the end of war in Europe. After World War II began, Germany invaded and stayed in northwestern France. In May 1940, the Americans entered the war in December 1941, and by 1942, they and the British were considered the possibility of a major Allied invasion across the English Channel. The following year, Allied plans for an invasion began to ramp up. In November 1943, Adolf Hitler, who was aware of the possibility of an invasion along France's northern coast, put Erwin Rommel in charge of defense operations in the region. Even though Germans did not know exactly where the Allies would strike, Hitler also put Rommel in charge of making sure that he finishes the Atlantic Wall. The Atlantic Wall is a 2,400-mile fortification of bunkers, landmines, and beach and water obstacles. In January 1944, General Dwight Eisenhower became commander of Operation Overlord. In the months and weeks before D-Day, the Allies carried out a massive deception operation intended to make the Germans think the main invasion target was Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. In addition, they led the Germans to believe that Norway and other locations were also potential invasion targets. Many different tactics were used in order to make sure it worked, including fake equipment, a phantom army commanded by George Patton and supposedly based in England, across from Pas-de-Calais, double agents, and fraudulent radio transmissions. Eisenhower selected June 5th, 1944 as the date for the invasion, but in the period of bad weather it delayed the invasion for a whole 24 hours. In the morning of June 5th, after this, meteorologists predicted improved conditions for the following day. Eisenhower gave the go-ahead for Operation Overlord. He told the troops, "You are about to embark upon the great crusade toward which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon you." Later that day, more than 5,000 ships and landing craft carrying troops and supplies left England for the long trip across the Channel to France. By dawn on June 6, thousands of paratroopers and glider troops were already on the ground behind enemy lines, securing bridges and exit roads. The aquatic invasions began at 6:30 a.m. The British and Canadians overcame little struggle to capture beaches, codenamed Gold, Juno, and Sword. The U.S. forces faced heavy resistance on the beach, where there were over 2,000 American casualties. More than 4,000 Allied troops lost their lives in the D-Day invasion, with thousands more wounded or missing. Major Donald E. Rivet, U.S. Army, wrote this in his diary about D-Day. "All up and down the beach we saw tanks and other vehicles stuck in the sand or destroyed by enemy mines or gunfire. Other debris, including hedgehogs, barbed wire, wrecked landing craft, and all sorts of equipment, littered the beach. The graves registration units had been busy throughout the night, and bodies were piled in neat rows like cordwood. It looked like we had lost half the assault wave. Less than a week later, on June 11th, beaches were fully secured and over 326,000 troops had landed on the beaches of Normandy, as well as the vehicles and equipment they brought. At first, Hitler believed the invasion was a feint designed to distract the Germans from the coming attack north of the Seine River. Refused to release nearby divisions to join the counterattack. Reinforcements had been called from further ahead, causing delays. He also didn't want to call for armored divisions to help in the defense. By this inconvenience, the Germans had to depend on air support on the updates on the key bridges of the battlefield. In the ensuing weeks, the Allies fought their way across the Normandy countryside as well as a dense landscape of marshes and hedgerows. At the end of June, the Allies had seized the vital port of Cherbourg, landed approximately 850,000 men and 150,000 vehicles in Normandy. They wanted to keep advancing. By August 1944, the Allies had reached the Seine River. Paris was liberated and the Germans had been removed from northwestern France, effectively ending the Battle of Normandy. The Allied forces then prepared to enter Germany, where they would meet face to face with Soviet troops moving from the east. The Normandy invasion began to turn the tide against the Nazis, a significant blow. It also prevented Hitler from sending troops from France to build up his eastern front against the powerful Soviets. The following spring, on May 8, 1945, the Allies formally accepted the surrender of Nazi Germany. Hitler had committed suicide a week later in order to not be imprisoned.